Hello, and welcome to my channel. This is JT from JT Tarot, and this is my very first video, VR, whatever you would like to call it. I am calling from my lovely little corner of East Sussex. I have the windows open. There's a little bit of traffic noise outside. I hope you can't hear it. But anyway, I thought I would sort of join or sort of get started in this tarot community with a VR. And the VR is to April and Tarot and Witchery and her hashtag deck FOMO. And I thought this was a really good hashtag to get started on because it's sort of, I think there are two ways that you can look at FOMO. Okay, fear of missing out. There's a positive angle, isn't there, that sort of drives you to do something. For example, I have been watching the Tarot Tube community for at least about 6 months, I guess, which is about the same time as I started getting into tarot myself. And I guess I really want to contribute to the community. I really want to talk and discuss tarot with people in the community. A lot, and mostly that's because, you know, I feel I feel like you guys understand what I mean about tarot and how life-changing it can be, or at least in my case, I think you can recognize that. With my friends and partner, they're not really tarot people, which is absolutely fine, but it means that it's something I can't really talk to them about. So this is why I really wanted to start a channel, and probably my fear of missing out on having that communication is what sort of overcomes my sort of little bit of fear of putting myself out there onto social media a little bit. And then, of course, there's the sort of, I guess, slightly more negative aspect of FOMO, which is more to do with, I think, it's jumping, don't want to say jumping on a bandwagon, but it's probably getting caught up in the hype surrounding a particular deck or a particular oracle, and, you know, feeling the impulse to purchase it, even though, you know, it's possibly not right for you. It's possibly the impulse part of FOMO that is the issue, I guess. Maybe. I mean, I remember as a university student, there were lots of times when my friends would be going out and I really should have stayed inside studying, but because of, you know, FOMO, I didn't study, and I went out instead. And I'll leave you to think about, you know, the consequences of those kind of actions. I guess so. Anyway, enough preamble. Let us get started with the first one, which is what triggers deck FOMO for you? I'm probably the same as many people, and that is really worrying that a deck that looks so amazing might never, you know, you might miss out and never be able to work with it again, and you might lose some of that energy from the deck, or lose some of, I don't know, the what that deck could give you. And in my case, this is how I feel about the Majestic Earth Tarot. I think that's an incredibly beautiful deck. I really connect with the imagery. I was too late to, well, I didn't even know about the Tarot Tube community when it was on a Kickstarter, and I think in March, I think she released some, or the creator released some factory seconds deck, and I was sort of, you know, I missed out on that as well. And I've always thought that this deck would be really amazing for pathfinding work, which isn't actually something I've done, but which I would really like to start getting into. But I mean, I'm sure that pathfinding can work with any deck you choose, you know, even a sort of like very standard RWS deck. So I'm not, you know, so it's not going to stop me from doing pathfinding, not having the Majestic Earth. But yeah, so now I guess when I see decks that have got a lot of hype around them, I think, oh, am I going to miss out on some of that energy? But I think often you can find that energy somewhere else. I've been looking at the Hellenic Oracle by Garden Goddess Tarot, and I think that might be a very good substitute for the Majestic Oracle. I guess yeah, I guess that's my main reason. And also as a newcomer to the tarot scene and to tarot reading and to exploring tarot, I do identify with those people. I think April might have mentioned it. I think Martyn from Tarot in the City might have mentioned it, that newcomers to tarot sort of tend to buy lots of decks really quickly at the beginning. And that is, I identify with that so much. Yeah, so I guess that those are the two things. I sort of, fear of missing out on the energy of the deck, but also being a newcomer to tarot and wanting to make sure I get the right decks, I guess. But I'm starting to find my, for want of a better word, tarot aesthetic. What kind of decks work for me more than others, and I can't really go through that process without working on some of these decks, or like watching a lot of walkthroughs and seeing whether they work for me. So I guess that's my answer for number one. For number two, what is a FOMO purchase you regret? Regret isn't quite the word I want to use here. More like it was an impulse purchase that I made after watching. It was Simon from the Hermits Cave, after watching his sort of discussion on this deck. And this is the Splendor Solis Tarot, Inner Alchemies of Mithratic Light, by Marie Angelo, and I think it's the Alchemia is the publisher. When I saw this deck, I fell in love with it. It is, I guess, it is totally my aesthetic when it comes to tarot. I mean, it's, I guess it's an art deck. It is absolutely gorgeous. Just really beautiful. But I don't connect with it in any way. I don't. The imagery is from a medieval manuscript, I believe, and so it's been kind of retrofitted to tarot, and I'm not sure. I guess I feel like this is a deck that's for people much further along in their tarot journey than I am. It's got an alchemical aspect to it, which is great. But it's also, I feel like, for example, women's work is the Judgment card, and I don't really understand it. But this, I'm perfectly aware that this could be a deficit in my sort of knowledge. But I feel like even when I read the guidebook, which is, it's a very nice guidebook. Interestingly, I don't know if you can see that, it has in the corner of each major arcana card, it has the RWS card, which I find quite interesting. So for me, this is an absolutely beautiful deck, but one I can't really see using. This is the Six of Wands, for example, and I think maybe next I'll have the Seven of Wands. This is the Seven of Wands, so the difference is that there's a triangle on the six from the Tree of Life, and on the 7 from the Tree of Life. Yeah, so it's a beautiful, beautiful deck. It's one that, had I taken a sort of, I guess I remember watching this video on the train from Brighton back home, which is about 20 minutes, and and just sort of like buying it straight away, because I just thought it was just incredibly beautiful, and it's an incredibly beautiful deck. And I have sort of used it almost as an oracle, just for the major arcana, but yeah, it's a deck that I don't really, that I connect with in some ways, because I enjoy the beauty of the artwork, but I find like I feel like I don't have enough knowledge for the alchemical aspects of it, and I do feel like it's been retrofitted into the tarot system. But maybe, maybe in a couple of years' time, when I know more about tarot, I'll pick this deck up again and I'll go, oh, okay, I see what I was missing here. I see what I didn't get. So I guess I don't really regret it so much as just think that maybe my purchase choices, maybe that sort of impulse buy was maybe a bit misjudged, maybe. I'm not going to get rid of it. I do like to look at it, and sometimes, yes, to use it as a bit of an oracle deck rather than a tarot. But yeah, we'll it is one that is, possibly one. If I was going to say regret, this is the closest to it. Number 3, how do I set limits? Well, probably most straightforwardly, there's a budgetary limit. I don't like to buy any mass market decks that are over £25-30. In fact, I don't think I've bought any decks that have been over £25 from mass market. So that's easy. The second one was, I think April sort of touched on it in her video, which was about major arcana decks, and she mentions one that was on Kickstarter, an incredibly beautiful deck that actually really made me think of the Majestic Earth tarot, but it is only 22 cards long. So I did pledge for it, and then I thought very hard about how I would work with this deck, how I would feel with it being only 22, only the major arcana, and I decided that it wasn't for me. So I withdrew my pledge, and it's gone on to, it's definitely been funded. I think it's been funded well above its original sort of asking, what it originally hoped to get, I guess. And I guess also, let's talk about the Majestic Earth again. This is a deck that I could acquire. I can see that on Etsy over here in the UK and on eBay, there is a deck, there is the Majestic Earth is, being offered for sale. And it is, if I remember correctly, did I write it down? It's about £350. And apart from it being well outside my budgetary limits, which for indie decks is more around about, I would say, £50 to £60. Aside from it being well outside those limits, I kind of feel like if I'm going to spend that sort of money on a deck, I want it to go to the creator. I understand that if you have a deck like Majestic Earth, you haven't connected with it, and the market price is £350, then for all means you should, put it on the market at that price. We can't, lots of us are struggling at the moment, and if that is going to help you, then you absolutely go for it. Or even if you just feel like, that's the price you're going to ask for. Equally, my decision is that I don't want to do that. I want to sort of pay the creator. So so that's where I stand with that. I would say that when it comes to indie decks, that 50 to 60 limit is dependent on, you know, that can change dependent on the deck. And a deck that I didn't succumb to FOMO, but which I am actually going to buy, is the Somnia Tarot, which when I first encountered it, the only reason I didn't buy it was because at that point he was not shipping to the UK, and that was that stopped me from buying it straight away. I would have. And I think it would have been a purchase that I would have absolutely liked. There is so much in this deck that speaks to me. The imagery, I mean, I think the photographs are incredibly beautiful. I think it's RWS inspired, but it gives a different perspective to the RWS. Another you know, big reason is it feels very much like a deck that you would use to access your unconscious or your subconscious. It just feels like a dreamy sort of slightly sinister, I think. Maybe sinister is not the right word. Slightly darker deck, I think. I love the star card in it too. It's got such a beautiful star card. But the reason that the big reason that I want to get this deck is because the creator suffers from sleep paralysis, and I also suffer from sleep paralysis, and it's something that it can be very, very scary, and I'm really looking forward to, you know, using this deck and to seeing what his seeing with how somebody with sleep paralysis sort of interprets that sort of weird half awake, half dreamlike, the kind of visitations you get when you're in that state. Just how he interprets that. It's my birthday in a couple of months' time, so this is going to be my birthday present to myself. And the deck itself falls within or slightly out of that 50 to 60 pound deck limit that I've got. It is the shipping and the taxes that bring it up to being quite expensive, but I think that's fine. It's a birthday deck, no problem. So those are the limits that I set for myself. So it's budgetary. It's like I'm not going to get any deck that is just a major arcana deck, not at least in the stage of my sort of tarot learning journey. I don't think that's helpful for me. I want to, if I'm going to spend a lot of money on a deck, if I'm going to go over my limit, then I want it to go to the creator. How many decks do you have? Well, I know that I have 22 decks, and I have another 6 on their way. I have 2 coming today, actually, and I have 2 coming this week, and there's sort of like mass market decks, which I'll probably talk about in a later version. I've got the Terra Incognita deck coming to me, and that I feel it's like stuck in shipping at the moment, so I just feel like once it gets a bump, it'll be with me in the next week, hopefully, and I'm so looking forward to the Terra Incognita deck. And I have the Literary Tarot, which I'm really interested in seeing how I work with that one. Primarily because when I pledged for the deck, when I supported it, I was interested in tarot, but I hadn't really begun my tarot journey, so I was sort of like really just flirting with the idea of tarot, I guess. And I loved the idea of having individual creators, individual writers that I love, like Margaret Atwood, like I can think of Margaret Atwood and no one else, but it's just lots of people, lots of great people, and sort of like take one card from the tarot deck and sort of write about that. And there are 4 artists in doing the deck, and now I'm sort of like wondering, now that I know a bit more about tarot, if that's going to work for me, because I like to have a single, clear, consistent vision across a deck, and with all these contributors, with 4 artists, I just wonder whether that's possible. I mean, maybe it is. I'm really looking forward to seeing it, but it's going to be a while yet, because I know they've got problems with the printing and shipping, and understandable problems. So I'm not, when it comes, it comes. I'm not really desperate for it. So I've got 22 and I've got 6 coming, so that will be 28, and obviously 29 would be the Insomnia Tarot when I get around to ordering that. How many decks do you need? Well, I guess I follow Martyn from Tarot and the City here, which is, I think, a RWS, Thoth, and a Marseille deck seems about right. Saying that, RWS is the only system that I've really worked with. Excuse me. I have worked with decks that are Thoth influenced, or that are sort of, have pippish decks, but haven't really, got down into those systems, and I really want to. I've got, I've bought this, The Way of the Tarot by Alejandro Jodorowsky and Marianne Costa, and this is a deck that is, this is a book that looks at tarot from the Marseille system, as I'm sure you all know. And just to mention, Jodorowsky does these amazing sort of like little responses to people's questions using the tarot, which you can find on YouTube, and I will link to his they're in I think Spanish. I'm terrible with the languages, I'm so sorry, but they are subtitled, and they're great. I think they're lovely. So that's how many decks I think I need, but I probably could get away with just a really good Rider-Waite-Smith. I do really like the imagery of the original Pamela Coleman Smith. Have I got that right? Anyway, I do really love Pixie's artwork. Very, very much. So I see a lot there. So that's it. I think I could possibly get away with one. And yeah, but do I want to get away with one? Nope. What is a positive deck purchase from FOMO? And here I think I'm going to say that, Martyn, I'm sorry. I know that you didn't like this one. I know that this was in the one that you regret, but I love the Carnival at the End of the World tarot. Can you see that all right? Yeah, I just love this deck. I will say I haven't read very much. I haven't read with it very much, but yeah, it's just one I love so much. Knight of Swords. That is so interesting. 10 of Swords. Page of Wands. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful artwork. We all, you've seen this deck before. I find that it's got a lot of, I find the imagery just so, it gives a different perspective, like I was saying, to the RWS system. I mean, and this devil, geez. This is an incredible devil, I think. Yeah, so this is a deck that when I do use it, I really like the different perspectives on each card it gives me. And I love this Justice card. This Justice card actually sort of brought me to a better understanding of what justice in tarot actually means. I find the RWS version really opaque and I can't find a way into it, but this sort of gave me that sort of more a little bit of more nuanced, I guess. Death, again, amazing. The world, oh, it's so good. Anyway, you've seen this deck before. I shall pack it away. But yes, I bought this because, you know, I would have hated if I had not been able to get this in the future. It's still available. It's I don't think it's I don't think it's in any you know, like I don't think it's in any danger of being out of print soon. But you know, it's just one of those decks that everybody was having, everybody was showing, and I just really love it. So now to number 7. What are your thoughts on the current state of deck FOMO in our community? Like I say, I'm fairly new, so I think my attitude to, or my understanding of what other people think about deck FOMO is maybe a little, I mean, maybe it's I'm trying to think of the right way of saying this. I feel like it's each to their own when it comes to your feelings about the amount of decks you own and what you're doing with them, and how you know, how they work for you. If you have 100 decks, then obviously, and you feel fine about that, then that's obviously great. If you have 5 decks and you want to get more, obviously great. If you have 100 and you want to get rid of half of them, then fine. If you have 5 decks and you think that's enough, or even I just want to have my, you know, trusty Thoth or RWS, whatever it is, then that is, you know, I feel like it's when things feel overwhelming, and I guess a lot of people would agree with me with this. My own sort of feeling about this when it comes to me is that, and what I feel like I see a little bit in the community is that feeling of overwhelm. I think probably about 15 years ago, I really got into knitting. I really got into the knitting sort of like online community. This is something that I knitted. And part of that community wasn't just knitting, obviously. It was also, you know, like finding beautiful yarn, like finding, you know, hard to come by yarn from indie dyers, you know, and I ended up buying a lot. Like there's a whole thing in the knitting community called Sable, which is stash acquisition beyond life expectancy. And it's kind of a funny way of saying you've just got too much yarn. And I don't, you know, I think when people were talking about that at the time, I was like, oh yeah, I have enough because I am working with it a lot. And I need to have these, you know, beautiful colours and you know, just to sort of like have a kind of a store that I can, you know, play with and use and like experiment with. But then I stopped, I guess, working with knitting as much. I still knit, I still love it, but I haven't been as obsessive with it as I was, you know, 10, 15 years ago. And yeah, I just don't knit as much anymore. And now I have like this huge, it's like, you know, it's a big plastic tub that is filled with yarn, and another 2 sort of like smaller plastic tubs. And it's, you know, we've moved like 3 times in the last 10 years, and I've, you know, moved those tubs with me. They take up space, they take up room. I'm not using them. If I do want to do some other knitting or crochet, I tend to like not look at my stash, and that's, you know, not good. I feel really bad about this yarn that I've got, and it's all beautiful stuff, and I want to sort of actually donate it somewhere, which I will do when I get, you know, I will do. I think I will set that for me to do sometime in the next month. I think it's quite a good goal to have. And I guess because of that experience, I really don't want my tarot to become like that. I want to have a number of tarot decks at my fingertips so I can use for whatever circumstances arise. But I don't want to have that sort of feeling that I've got so many decks that I'm almost, paralyzed by choice. So I feel like that's where a lot of people are at the moment. But it's difficult because I think it's really until you get to sort of work with a deck that you understand what it can do for you. Saying that, it might be if you're experiencing like a block with a particular deck you've got, maybe it just means that you just need to work with it. And I think what I'm going to try to do now is spend at least a month with a deck and try to really get a hold of what it means. And I think I want to spend a month with the deck, but that doesn't mean I can't bring other decks in for readings, or maybe I have a study deck and then a deck that I like to do a daily pull from. Yeah, I think that's how I'm feeling, and I think it's just one of those things. It's probably peaks and troughs. It probably is a response to the pandemic and being, in the house the whole time. But yeah, that is my feelings for what they're worth. So thank you very much for listening. I have got to the halfway mark, just after the no, not halfway, to the half-hour mark, just over. So I'm pretty happy with myself here that it hasn't gone into a whole 1.5-hour tirade as some of my other never to be published on the internet videos have gone. If you made it this far, thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see you around TarotTube. Please tag me if you do any other deck FOMO tags, and I'll be really interested to hear your responses. And thank you so much to April from Tarot and Witchery for putting this tag together. I think it's a really, really interesting one, and yeah, so thank you very much, and have a lovely, well, I'm just about to head off into the garden, so have a lovely day, I guess. All right, thanks so much, and